Welcome back. Thank you for your feedback. We listened. We heard from you. My name is Shelia Malcom, and I'm here with Kevin. And today we're going to continue with stories of black women in the Bible.
And my name is Kevin Melliphant, and I am excited to be here with you today, Shelia. Let's jump right in. I have a lot of the history, you have a lot of the context. Together, we're going to have some fun, right? We're talking now, right? This is an African story.
Right?
But the reason you're seeing this particular screen is because you can't talk North Africa and not connect it back to Europe.
Right.
As you see that Mediterranean right there, that spot is the hotbed. That's where all the action and the battles and the fighting to see
Okay.
which empire will rule. And the Put people is part of that story. So let's jump right on in to this and break down, I kind of highlight what we've covered. We're covering this in the structure of the four sons of
Right.
Ham. They're the ones who kind of migrated to Africa. All biblical scholars agree that these are the black Africans that we see today.
Okay.
And so the first one we've already
It's
covered
Cush.
is Cush.
Okay.
Then we covered the Mizraim.
Mizraim,
And now we're covering...
Put it all out there. In Libya, you have the Berber and the Moor people and the Cyrene. I can't wait to hear more about these folks because there are times we hear these names in the Bible, so it's good to kind of put some context around it. So jump right in and tell us a little bit more about the Put people.
So let's get into these Put people, right? So Put's not a name we hear a lot in
Right.
history books, right? And so some fun facts about them, right? This is what you consider the ancient North African people. They were in constant battle with every rising power in the Europe and in North Africa or Middle East.
Okay.
And because of their close alliance with Egypt, they were, anytime Egypt went to battle, they kind of went to battle.
Okay.
And so a lot of historians have them on the record books because of the battles they joined Egypt in. Sometimes they fought against Egypt, but not very much. Kind of
Okay.
like how the U.S. and Britain is today.
Gotcha.
Is a little bit of how the Puts and the Egyptians were at
Okay.
one point.
So they were just known for their fighting styles or their skills on the battlefield?
Oh yeah, they were famous warriors back in the day. And so there is a famous person in the Bible, though, that is from Cyrene, which is right in the heart of that area. And that would be Simon.
And it's important that you brought this out. And I know we're focusing on women, but it's good to kind of again bring context around because when I listen to the Bible stories or even read it, I understand that the gentleman that helped Jesus carry the cross was a man from Cyrene, Simon of Cyrene. So now just seeing where he came from, he was really having a peaceful moment when he was helping Jesus, coming from a culture like that.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, when you look on the map, he wasn't that close to where they crucified him. He traveled a long way to get there.
Did he?
And so he gets there, and sure enough, they pick him out of the crowd, right?
There was something about him, I guess. He's just stood out.
I don't know. He was a black dude standing there minding his own business, and the guy's like, "You carry the cross."
But it was for a very good cause.
Right. So, but another thing that to keep in mind is the Put people represents many different countries and nations. So that's why you see that depending on who's in power at what time,
Okay.
they migrated based on that. But it was still along the North African coast.
Okay. So how does the Berber people fit into that?
Now, the Berber people is another name for
Okay.
the Put people. Biblically, ancient wise, we say Put.
Okay.
If you're looking at it through like historians, historians would have, instead of saying Put, historians would say Berber.
Okay.
So it depends on who's kind of naming them.
Gotcha.
Right? And so the Berber people, which are the ancient Put people, they rule North Africa and Southern Europe.
So in other words, they use these names interchangeably. At some point, someone will refer to them as Put, and
Yeah.
other times Berber. Okay, so it's not like one before the other one came.
No, not
okay.
really.
Okay.
And so now they were famous for their architecture, science, universities, medicine, and gold. They had money.
Wow. That's good to know.
Now, there is a part of this that I'm so excited. I know, Shelia, we're gonna get into the woman piece. I know it. I'm just stay with me here.
Yes.
But I'm just telling you, I am shocked at how much seems to be ignored by historians. But if you Google it, it's all over. I mean, it's easy to find. There are historians
Okay.
who reference what I'm about to share with you, so it's easy to validate. But in a high school or college, you don't seem to get a lot of this reference. And
Okay.
here's what it's about. The black African Berber people, right? When they migrated into southern Europe,
Right.
they were called Moors.
Okay.
Right?
Moors.
And so for 700 years, they actually were the rulers of the what do you call the Spanish Portugal Peninsula. Right?
Okay.
And they were also rulers of southern France and southern Italy, and it's like 700 years.
That's a long time for us not to know much about them.
The U.S. from 1776 to now is only 241 years. That's it.
Right.
700 years.
Wow.
Black people were ruling in Europe, and it's like no
Not
one
in the
talks
history
about
book.
it.
It's not in the history book. You know, it's interesting you brought this up because, again, going back, even though, again, we're focusing on black women in the Bible, we need to pause here for a minute to educate anybody that's listening, whether it be black, white, Hispanic, it doesn't matter about color at this moment. We need to give credit where credit is due. I mean, if someone ruled for 700 years, we need to let that be known, and especially for those people who this will affect as far as young black men and young black children. They need to know their roots, that they were brilliant, they were smart, they were well thought about. And on this slide, it talked about the libraries that they had and different educational tools and instruments that they had. Tell us some more about that.
So what you're gonna find is this: the common mindset of European kings was that it's hard to rule educated people. So they intentionally, right? 90% of the population was illiterate. They couldn't read.
Gotcha.
They intentionally didn't train them on any kind of things outside of a basic like how to be a craftsman. But outside of that, you weren't educated, right? But the Moors had a different attitude. Their mindset was higher learning. That's what they valued above everything. So that's why, like you referenced, that they actually had 17 universities in
Wow.
one city.
Wow.
When the rest of the non-Moor controlled Europe had two. Every other nation there had two. One city had 17.
Okay. So the picture that's being created in my brain at this point is that during those times, this specific group, the Puts, they were educated people, yet we have young blacks, no matter what country you see them in, are struggling in the area of literacy. I think this piece of information, as people listen and watch and learn, hopefully we send them back to the drawing board of opening up books and getting that piece of information in their heads.
And one of the things I want black people to feel empowered.
Yes.
That their story is not always one of being primitive.
That's right.
Because for hundreds of years, they were considered the most civilized
Definitely.
people. In fact, the medicine books, the first medical books that Europe used
Right.
came out of Cordova, which was the more controlled Spanish city.
Yeah.
You're looking at like it was a center of innovation and technology. They had like paved streets
Yes.
and night lights. I mean, they had libraries with hundreds of thousands of books. This is what looked like when a black person was ruling in Europe. It wasn't huts.
Right.
It wasn't running around half naked with spears.
Oh, my
right?
goodness, yes.
It's like we only see this one image of
Yes,
what Africans
the
look
negative
like,
portion of it.
right?
Yep.
But they were not. They were incredibly sophisticated. And
Yes.
that's part of our story as black people.
Right. And we call ourselves during this piece of information where we're sharing this information, value finders. And I'm so glad you found this valuable piece of information that can apply to any woman listening that will pass it on to her brother, her son, any male in her life, because it is so important for us to realize that we're not at the bottom of the food chain. We were at the top, and we need to get back some equal medium there, somewhere with our education, knowing who we are, where we came from, that we're from good foundation, excellent foundation, as a matter of fact.
So that's all we have for the puts because we really got to get back to the black women, right?
Yes.
So we're going to transition into the Canaanites, and there are a lot of them. So this is we're just entering the story of the women. Most of the black women in the Bible are actually Canaanites.
Yes.
So
And they married famous people too that I didn't even realize until now that we were doing the slide.
yeah. So when we first did it, we had this long list, right? And of most of the women on the list, as you can see, they're Canaanite women.
Yes. Keturah, yes, second wife of Abraham and mother of the nation.
We have Shu and Tamar, right? They're the mothers that started the tribe of Judah.
Yeah, and Zipporah, the wife of Moses. And she saved him in so many ways. I'm sure you're going to enlighten us on that.
Yeah, when we get into Zipporah,
right.
You're going to be shocked at how much she did save him because God was going to kill him. And she stepped in and did what he was supposed to have done.
And let me put a plug here. This is an opportunity for us as women to realize our places in relationships, that we are there. If you're married, you are your husband's helpmate. And if you are over your sons, your goal is to pour into them and stand at the gate for them and show them the way, like Zipporah did, which was very good.
You have Rahab from Jericho. She's a prostitute who really becomes the great-grandparent of King David.
Your life can be turned around. And Bathsheba, one of King David's beautiful wives. And we know Solomon came out of that union.
That's a scandalous story all by itself.
Lots of scandal in the Bible we're going to uncover.
Now, Jezebel, the most famous wicked woman, right? But I'm sorry to say, she was powerful, but she was also black.
But you know what's interesting? I haven't heard another mother name their kid Jezebel. And that's such a beautiful. That's such a beautiful thing.
Right? And then you had the widow that was with Elijah, and he really went to her because of the drought and the famine.
Exactly.
And she gave him his last meal, her last meal.
Yeah, she wasn't very trusting, but he was able to convince her that she should have faith. So I'm glad that, they're showing up here. We are women of faith, and we are in this Bible. Yeah.
So let's jump into Canaan. You gotta understand that you can't talk about the Israelite story and not talk about the Canaanite story. And a big part of that is when the Bible talks about this place as the land of milk and honey.
Yes.
What it's
dripping.
talking about is the land of Canaan. They're referenced almost. They're the second most referenced group of people in the Old Testament stories.
Okay.
Because that's the land the Israelites were in. Abraham, when he left the Cush city of Ur, he traveled 900 miles to get to the promised land in Canaan. That land, when he got there, was rich with resources, rich with everything. What it wasn't full of was him and his people, because there was no people. It was just him and his family.
So is that the reference for the milk and honey, because it was rich with all of these?
Yeah, it was a land that was very fertile. It had a lot of harvest. They had a lot of pastures for animals.
Oh, okay.
It had honey. It had trees. When you saw it, you can say, wow, I can get what the Garden of Eden was like. This was the land that people wanted to have.
Excellent.
So Canaan had 11 sons, right? And the 6 of them that I have listed here represent the 6 that were most dominant. And they were so dominant that they became their own nations within the land of Canaan. The first is Sidon, right? And the Sidonians were ancient, wealthy people. It's the reason why today, like when you say royalty wears purple, they were known as the people who sold purple, and that's why the Greeks call them Phoenicians.
Interesting.
They had an insane amount of wealth. That's where Jezebel's from.
That lady Jezebel.
Yeah, right? Then you had the Hittites. The Hittites were famous warriors, but they were really considered almost like the constant friends of the children of Israel.
Okay.
They're the ones who gave Abraham and Jacob like a safe place to live.
That's right.
He bought the plot of land for Sarah
I remember.
as a burial site.
I remember.
He married them. I mean, they married into Israel a lot, actually. Jebusites. The Jebusites, the Bible says, that's the people where when King David showed up, he showed up and he saw in Jerusalem this fortified city. And
right, that's
the Bible
right.
says
Surrounded.
this is the most fortified base in the land of Canaan.
Okay.
So he's like, as a military guy, he's like, I want that
That's
place.
right.
They were like, you can't conquer us. And he's
We're
like,
surrounded. We're
watch
protected.
You know?
I love his boldness.
So that's the Jebusites. The Amorites, now they were famous for their giant kings. They were like the warrior clans. I mean, these people went to war often. They conquered a lot of land. They were in the mountains. They were in the valleys. Wherever they were at, you had to take that by force.
Really? Okay.
So that's the Amorites. Now the Gershites, they were in one of the more fertile areas.
Okay.
They weren't really that aggressive, so most of the times they got referenced to as Canaanites more than by their names. And the Hittites, most people remember them through the famous story with Jacob, Joshua.
Joshua? Okay.
They tricked them.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
They're the ones who said, we live so far away.
And they live right down the road.
And they had dry bread. We're so far away, right? When in fact, they were just around the corner,
wow.
right? And so they became permanent servants for Israel. And kind of to the Bible's point, if you look in the book of Judges, it talks about it a lot.
Yes.
Right? Is they married. The children of Israel intermarried with them quite a bit.
No, you're around them, and they're fine people from my view.
So, to finish off the 11 sons of Canaan, what you're looking at is the remaining, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? The remaining 5, they were not considered major people groups. So people just called
didn't
them
remember them.
Canaanites.
Yeah.
All right? Some of them were up in Sidon or Lebanon, but that's kind of just the story. And
I guess with everything, you have to do something to be known or to be remembered by. If you want to leave a legacy, no one knows them because they weren't doing anything.
And so Hagar is there because Hagar and her son Ishmael, when they married the Canaanites, and they created the Edomites, Moabites, Ammonites. So a lot of the other people came back through that other black woman we've already covered, which is Hagar. And so you have this like Egyptian, Israelite, Canaanite mixture.
Like a salad bowl.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
So we're going to start off on our first woman. Now that you get the Canaanite people, right? You know where they're at. You know what's going on with them. Let's jump into our first one, and her name is
Keturah. You know, if Keturah looked anything like this, I'm sure she had Abraham's head going all around her. She's a beauty. Tell us a little bit more about her.
So what you're looking at here is this. Sarah, his love, died.
Yes.
Abraham, then, he didn't sit as a widow. This dude who waited till he was old as dirt before he had his first kid. In his latter life, though, he still had some fertility, man.
He was trying to catch it for lost time.
So he had 6 kids with her.
6, wow.
So his son was still there, right? So what you're finding...
Which son you talking about?
Sorry. His son Isaac, right, is still there. After Sarah dies, he's in mourning. So Abraham's great idea is, let me get him a wife, right? So Rebecca comes into the story, and Isaac starts to take on the mantle as leader.
Gotcha.
During this time period, though, Abraham has his latter life love, Keturah. And most of her kids aren't necessarily that memorable from a biblical standpoint.
Except for?
Except for Midian.
Tell us about them.
So the Midianites now, those Midianites are absolutely famous.
Yes.
The first time we're talking about them is Jethro and Zipporah, right? This is where Moses' wife comes from, right? And then you're also looking at that they were into Baal worship, which was a fertility worship religion.
That's what that was.
A lot of orgies, a lot of where you get pornography from. and they seduced the children of Israel.
Lots of
Well, that kind of
scandal.
backfired because the children of Israel actually massacred them because of it. And
Yeah.
so later on, the Midianites come back and conquer them, and
Okay.
Gideon then had to fight against them. So they're all over the Bible. You've heard the names, but you
Right.
never knew who they
Really.
were.
Exactly. Now.
This Keturah, that's her story. Modern day Zimran, that's where the city of Mecca is. So
Okay.
if you're from a Muslim faith or Islam, then that means a lot to you.
Right. Yeah.
But the roots of this,
Got you.
it comes through her. And so a lot of people are like, we're not that familiar with her
But
because Moses, or not Moses,
Abraham.
Abraham was really big in trying to hide her
Isn't that sad?
and hide the kids, because he wanted to keep everybody away from Isaac. That was his thought process.
Yeah.
So he's like, Isaac is the son of promise. He's the one that should get everything. And so because Abraham kind of pushed them aside,
Right.
he treated them a little better than Ishmael, because he didn't give Ishmael a chance. I'm sorry, I'm still kind of bummed out.
I know.
Right? But he left them a little bit of money, gave them some stuff, but he gave them instructions to get as far away from my son Isaac
Wow.
as possible.
Wow.
And they did. They honored their dad and they moved far away.
Yeah. I think once we're done with the black women in the Bible, we're gonna have to go back to the black men because there's some wounds that need to be healed here.
I agree with that. I agree with that big time. So what you're looking at is the last 35 years of Keturah's story is of Abraham's life is with Keturah. And I think it's unfortunate that people kind of ignore this as if
Okay.
it was some trifle little thing that happened for just a moment. It wasn't a moment.
Okay.
35 years is a pretty
That's a long time to be married. These days, people not making it that long. So it's good that Keturah hang in there.
So we're going to transition from
Okay.
Abraham now.
Right.
Right? And we're going to go to our next woman.
Oh, she looks so beautiful.
What do you like about it?
I love she just looks so peaceful. I love color. Color speaks to me. The yellow just really speaks to me. And then you see the line of Judah. It just really just a picture that says, yeah, I'm ready for this.
So the first wife of Judah, right? And he's the father of the tribe of Judah.
Tribe of Judah,
His
yeah.
first wife, right, was Shua, right? And so Shua, people struggle with this because either they didn't know this existed or
Okay.
they always want to go fast past the story, right? But we're not going too fast past the story.
All right.
We need to unpack this.
Yes.
Right? Because too often black women think their story is not really valued and it's not respected in the Bible. The women who actually are the mothers
Right.
of the tribe of Judah are black women.
Black women. So women, as you listen to this, as you're reading, remember you had to take your place in the world. You belong here with your power, with your humility, and with your giftedness. You definitely belong here. And this is a great example. Go ahead.
So here's where we get this from. Genesis 38, 1 through 5. This is literally the Bible here. So, right? It says, Judah left home and he moved to Adullam, right? Where he stayed with a man named Hariah, right? Adullam is in a place just outside of like where Jerusalem is. It's
Okay.
to the west of it, right? And so he's in heavy, this is before that area is conquered, right? So he's living there with his Canaanite best friend.
Okay.
Because he's moved into this area and embraced it. That's both good and bad, right? There he saw a Canaanite woman, the Bible says, the daughter of Shua, and he married her.
A beautiful
He didn't just
Canaanite
have
woman.
sex with her. He
Married her. Women, make sure the men marry you. Listen up.
When he slept with her, the Bible said, she became pregnant and gave birth to a son.
Yes.
And he named this boy Then she became pregnant again and gave birth to another son. And she named him Onan. And when she gave birth to her third son, she named him
Sheila.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as Kevin and I was talking as we were putting this video together, my name is Shelia, but it's such a variation from Sheila, and it's spelled different ways, but Sheila was a man, not a female. It's so
Yeah.
interesting how history change and things change and name change. But it's good to know that we belong somewhere, and I want to embrace that name too.
You should. You should totally embrace it. So here is what I need you to understand,
Uh-huh.
women, right? That even though there's a lot of scandalous stories in
A
the
whole
Bible,
lot.
and in this fact, in this truth,
Mm-hmm.
her sons lived scandalous lives.
They sure
Her
did.
sons lived lives God didn't approve.
Mm,
But that doesn't diminish the role that black women were playing
right.
in the story,
Mm-hmm.
not only of the children of Israel, but the tribe of Judah
Judah.
is
Mm-hmm.
unique in that God says, my son will come through this line.
Yes, that's good to know. That's important.
So you cannot be um, Judah. You can't be from the tribe of Judah
Mm-hmm.
and ignore that you have black roots.
That's right. That's solid
That's
right there.
according to the Bible. This isn't conjecture.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't hoping and pleading. This is the reality
Yes. Mm-hmm.
that they fell in love with black women,
Mm-hmm.
and in that they birthed the tribe of Judah, and from the tribe of Judah came the Messiah, the
Right.
Savior of the world.
Yeah. And that's truth. And we need to embrace truth and not whitewash it, not look over it. And black women, you are beautiful. Because even in Bible times, we stood out and we still have it going on right now.
So the Bible says, in the course of time, Judah arranged his first son to marry a young woman named Tamar. Now, we're going to cover Tamar in the next video, but what I need you to understand was Judah wasn't displeased with his Canaanite wife. How
Okay.
do we know? Because he arranged for all of his sons to marry a
A
Canaanite
night
woman.
woman. Okay, got it.
It was something to him that he valued, and he shared that value forward. Right? Which means that when the drought happened and Judah went into Egypt,
Okay.
he went into Egypt. He went into Egypt with a Canaanite woman
Okay.
that had sons.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to get that when they showed up, they didn't hide their black women.
Yes.
It wasn't something to hide. I don't know why today biblical scholars and pastors are hiding the black woman in the Bible.
Yeah.
We have to get open about this
Yeah.
and tell the story, whether it's a pleasant story.
Tell the truth.
And tell it whether it's an unpleasant story, right? It doesn't matter.
Right.
We're not trying to say every black woman in the Bible did an amazingly good
Right.
thing. What we are saying though is that they have their stories, and their stories should be heard.
Right, and that is true. And this is why we're doing this as, again, value finders. We're bringing the value of our black women and women on a whole to realize that we should no longer be second class citizens on any level.
So this ends what we're going to be covering today. We're going to be picking this up where we continue Tamar's story. Tamar's story has so many twists and turns
Turns.
that we couldn't
Yeah.
do it in a quick
Right.
little clip.
It needs time.
We're going to spend probably another 10 to 15 minutes on Tamar
Wow.
to break her down, because what she's done and how she connects to Jesus Christ is critical.
It is.
Because it's through Tamar, not through any other connection. It's through Tamar's descendants
Okay.
that Jesus comes.
Yes, and that's one of the main reasons we're doing it, not just to bring highlights to women, but to see our value in connection to the God that we serve, to the Jesus that we call on to help us. Black is beautiful, and we have our place, and we need to understand, we need to embrace who we are, no matter what.